The voice cut sharply through the room, not as a casual remark, but as a challenge, one too bold to ignore. He wasn't making a request. This was an order. His eyes locked onto Karoline Leavitt, a young, unapologetically faithful leader standing at the center of a crowded press conference. All eyes followed the words as they landed on the simple, gleaming necklace she wore, a symbol of her faith, her belief in God, and, as some would later say, her unshakable courage. But this moment wasn't just about a piece of jewelry. It was a calculated attempt to humiliate her, to strip her of her principles inch by inch. Instead, it became something else entirely, a moment of extraordinary grace under fire. Karoline Leavitt was a fighter in every sense of the word. Bold, articulate, and deeply rooted in her beliefs, she embodied a new kind of leadership, young but wise beyond her years. She had risen as a voice for those who often felt silenced, and on this day, she had just wrapped up a press conference discussing critical topics: unity, free speech, and the right to express one's beliefs in a deeply divided world. But not everyone in the room shared her vision of freedom. One TV host, a staunch liberal with a known grudge, had clashed with her before. Their exchanges had been heated, but this time it wasn't about policy or political ideologies. This time it was personal. "Take it off," he sneered, louder this time, as if daring her to refuse. The room hung in uneasy silence. Even those who typically agreed with him shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure of what would happen next. But Caroline didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly and offered the faintest, most disarming smile. Then, in a steady and composed voice, she responded, "You want me to take it off? My faith? That's what this necklace represents. My faith, my relationship with God, my strength. And you're asking me to remove it because you disagree with it?" Her words weren't defensive or filled with anger. They were measured, thoughtful, immediately reframing the conversation. Suddenly, this wasn't about a necklace. It was about something much deeper. To understand how Caroline reached this moment, you have to understand where she came from. She wasn't born into privilege or ease, nor did she fit the mold of a traditional political leader. She grew up in a modest home where faith wasn't just spoken about on Sundays. It was woven into the very fabric of her family's life. Her parents taught her to lean on God in times of uncertainty, to find strength in prayer, and to never apologize for her beliefs. "Faith isn't about shouting louder than others," her mother had told her. "It's about living with conviction, even when no one else does." Caroline carried this principle throughout her life. From high school debates to college lectures, where she was often the lone voice standing for her worldview, she learned that standing firm in her beliefs could put a target on her back. But she also learned something else. When you refuse to back down, even those who disagree with you will respect you. And standing firm was exactly what she did that day. After the TV host's antagonistic challenge, she took a deep breath. She didn't focus on the hostility in his words, but on the foundation she had built her life upon. "I'm sorry if my necklace makes you uncomfortable," she said, her voice unwavering. "But I wonder, why does it offend you so much? Are you really angry about a piece of jewelry or about what it stands for?" There was a shift in the air. Everyone in the room felt it. Her tone wasn't combative, it was inviting. She wasn't attacking. She was urging reflection. "This necklace," she continued, holding it gently between her fingers, "is not just an accessory. It's a reminder of the strength I've found in my darkest moments when nothing else could bring me peace. A reminder of the values I strive to live by: love, kindness, and the unwavering belief that every person has inherent worth, regardless of whether they share my faith or not." The room was silent. Even the TV host, who had been prepared to escalate the moment into a spectacle, took a step back. He had expected defensiveness, he had expected defiance, he hadn't expected this. But Caroline wasn't done. "I don't wear this necklace to force others to believe what I believe. God gives every person the gift of free will. That includes the choice to follow him or not. I respect that deeply. But I wear this because it reminds me of something you can't see. It reminds me of how far I've come, the battles I've fought, and the strength I've gained, not by my own power, but by God's grace." She paused, allowing her words to settle in the stillness of the room. Cameras flashed, journalists scribbled, but the energy in that space was undeniable. "You said I should take it off. as if my faith is something I can remove as easily as you think. But my faith isn't a decoration. It's not something I put on in the morning and leave behind at night. It's who I am. It informs every choice I make, every policy I advocate for, every conversation I have. And I say this knowing full well that not everyone believes as I do, and that's okay. Her words weren't just directed at the host anymore, they were for everyone. Everyone who had ever felt pressured to silence their faith, to hide their convictions, to conform. I wear this, not because my faith makes me better than anyone else, but because it reminds me to be better. Better than I was yesterday. Better to my friends and family. Better to strangers who might need kindness more than I realize. That is what my faith symbolizes. And if that offends you, then maybe the issue isn't my necklace. Maybe it's something only you can reconcile. The host opened his mouth to respond, but found no words. He looked at her, then at the cameras, clearly wrestling with the weight of her statement. He had come into this moment intending to humiliate her, to paint her as an extremist. Instead, she had calmly, gracefully exposed his own bias, not through anger, but through truth. Karoline's final words were what many later called the defining moment of her career. Unity isn't about making everyone the same. It's about respecting the differences that make us who we are. This necklace may symbolize my faith in God, but what unites us as people is so much bigger than any symbol. It's found in how we treat each other, how we listen, how we build bridges rather than burn them. If you disagree with me, I welcome the discussion, but I won't hide who I am, and I wouldn't ask you to either. The room erupted in applause. The TV host, though visibly shaken, managed a nod, perhaps realizing that, in this moment, he too had been shown grace. What began as an attempt to humiliate her ended in unexpected reflection. Some called it a win for Karoline. Others called it a win for something far greater: faith, resilience, and the courage to stand for one's beliefs without tearing others down in the process. And as for the necklace, it stayed exactly where it belonged, proudly worn by a woman who refused to shrink in the face of adversity. Because in that moment, Karoline showed the world what true strength looks like, not in the symbols we wear, but in the principles we live by.